love it. I just love it. This is Kevin and Nick, and they're going to do a session with you. Longtime referee Kevin, newer referee Nick, and so they're going to do a little session with you. You might see them in your gym. Are they allowed to yell at you if they see you in the gym? Maybe.
They can try.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you. So I want to start off just by saying that what Mark just did is one of my worst nightmares. I hate seeing a coach with a whistle, especially on the games I'm on. So my name's Kevin Hamel, longtime referee, been refereeing for a long time. Actually, recent Calgary, just moved to Calgary a couple years ago. Longtime Oilers fan, sorry for those of you who hate the Oilers. And this is actually my son, Nicholas. Nick is 17 years old. Nick started refereeing last year. So Reagan got a hold of me. I've known Reagan for many, many years. I've refereed Reagan, I don't even know how long. Long time, since Reagan was in high school. So that'll tell you how long ago that was. Reagan asked me if I'd come out and do a session on about referees and try to explain to some of the coaches. I asked if I could bring my son Nicholas out, because I think it's important for you as coaches to hear from a 17-year-old who just started refereeing about what his perspective is on refereeing. He's watched me do this for many years. I've reffed university for over 20 years. I've reffed professional ball. I've reffed college ball, and now that my son's refereeing, I'm doing community ball, I'm doing junior high ball, I'm doing high school ball, which I hadn't done in many, many years. But how many parents can say that they get to go out and hang out with their 17-year-old son for 3 hours, exercise, and make a little bit of money doing it? Like, for me, I love it. I wouldn't be doing basketball, I wouldn't be refereeing if I didn't appreciate it. So that's why Nicholas is here. So we've got 3 things that we want to go through with you. Number 1, we're going to talk about some of the rule changes and also some of the misinterpretations of the rules that already exist. And I'm going to explain to you some of the rationale behind it. Number 2, we're going to talk about do's and don'ts of dealing with dealing with referees. I've been doing this for a long time. I educate referees on how to deal with coaches. I educate my son on how to deal with coaches. We all have unique styles, both as coaches and as referees. I'm going to try to give you guys a few pointers on how to deal with officials to hopefully not get an advantage, but to understand why they're doing what they're doing. And the third thing, Nicholas is actually going to talk to you about the positives and the negatives of officiating, what he's learned in his 2 years of doing this. So let's start off with some of the rule changes and some of the things that are misunderstood. So number 1, and I think this is a big thing, especially in junior high. Again, I haven't done junior high for a long time, but I've now done community and junior high with my son. I see players coming out with earrings in. I see players coming out with a nose ring in, and they say, well, they can't take it out. Then they can't play. Okay, I hate as a parent telling a child, you cannot play because you have these. There's a reason why we have these rules. Putting tape on it doesn't mean, the rule book doesn't say you can't wear exposed jewelry. The rule book says you can't wear jewelry. That means that make sure your players understand this. Take off the nose rings, get them out, find a way, or if the referees are following the rule book, they're not going to let you play. I've had coaches say to me, well, the referees last week let us do it. Doesn't matter. If I'm on the game, they're not going to play. And I hate saying that, but it's the honest to God truth. If you get stopped by a cop and you're speeding, and you say to the cop, well, the cop last week just gave me a warning, you're not going to get away with it, right? Some of us, we've got to enforce the rules. We try to encourage referees to have courage. Courage means enforcing the rules the way they're written in the rule book, doing what's right for the game. Okay, so they can't wear anything that's going to harm another player. Jewelry, barrettes, hard shoulder braces, things like that. One of the new rules this last year was the benches and where you shoot. So we always used to have our benches and you'd warm up opposite, shoot opposite in the first. That changed this year, sorry. That changed this year. Now you warm up and shoot in front of your bench. I've asked many university coaches, college coaches, I like to ask them, what do you think of this? Because the rules always come from feedback. It's probably 50-50. I'll tell you what the rationale behind it was. Number 1 is, in general, at a higher level, FIBA rules come from international basketball. They want to defend in front of, they want their defense, the coaches wanted their defense in front of them in the second half. That was number 1. Number 2, from a scorekeeper's perspective, at the higher levels, team just got scored on, they're going to be looking at the bench that got scored on in the second half, looking for the coach giving a timeout signal. So those are the 2 main reasons why they changed that. Just understand, you're going to shoot, I think that is the public school junior high just starting now? It is? Okay. So we've already been doing it for a full semester, so for us it's not a big deal, like as referees and whatnot. You're probably going to screw it up. We screwed it up. Nick and I were doing a community game, and I noticed the very first, we have the jump ball. I throw up the jump ball, senior guy, knowing what I'm doing, go this way, and I'm like, oh crap, we're going the wrong way. So we just stop the game and then we change it. When we have an opportunity, we stop and change it. But just understand you're going to change the way you throw. This is probably the biggest change. It might not happen in your games, but I'm going to let you know about it anyways. There used to be, everybody know what Hack-a-Shack rule was? Everybody understands that, right? I'm a Lakers guy. Geez, I'm an Oilers fan. I'm a Lakers fan. I'm probably losing friends here. But they had a rule where if you foul a guy before the ball comes in the last 2 minutes, you're standing there for a throw-in and there's a foul in the last 2 minutes. It used to be an unsportsmanlike foul. Unsportsmanlike foul is a big, big penalty. 2 shots and the ball. But probably the biggest thing is you get 2 unsportsmanlike fouls and you're out of the game. That means that you might have an unsportsmanlike, it might be a clear path, it might be a hard foul, it might be whatever it is, and then they go like this before the ball comes in and they're out of the game. They changed that rule. Now it's just a common foul, and it's only 1 free throw. So that's one of the biggest changes that we had in the rules this year. Any questions on that? Oh, by the way, stop me at any time. They've given me half an hour, but... Sorry? It's 1 free throw on the ball. Yeah, and one of the other changes is it's the point of foul. So that means that if you're trying to throw the ball in here in the front court, and the foul occurs back there, guess what? You get the free throw and the ball goes over there. It's the point of foul now. Unsportsmanlike foul, there were a couple of changes within the rules. The biggest one was to get rid of that. It was called a C5, unsportsmanlike foul. They got rid of that one. Now it's just a common foul. And they also clarified clear path and whatnot. We see this definitely at the higher levels where players try to gain an advantage by holding somebody. I was just evaluating the referees at the ACAC Final 8s this last weekend. One of our best crews screwed up the last 2-minute foul. They gave him, as soon as he called the foul, he went like this, and I'm like, oh God, because it's just a common foul. And sure enough, they went and shot 2 free throws. The coach, who I know very well, a guy named Jordan Baker, played 5 years for the Bears, played internationally, one of the best guys around. Grabs the referee and says, hey, didn't the rule change? Isn't it only 1 shot? That was the second referee. The first guy called this. The second one there said, no, we got 2 in the ball. We go into the change room after, and they're like, oh man, we screwed it up, didn't we? Yeah, you did. Luckily, it didn't affect the game. They lost by 8, but still, we as referees, point I'm trying to make, at the highest levels, we're making these mistakes. I want you to think about that. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes for sure. Now, some of the points of emphasis that we have as referees. Dead ball officiating. As referees, we try to keep the game flowing. We don't like when things aren't happening. We got a timeout. Timeouts are 1 minute, right? We have a horn at 50 seconds. When do we start? When are we supposed to be ready to start play? 1 minute. The second horn, we're supposed to be ready. That means if you watch at the university, college, international levels, at 50 seconds, the referees are standing there. As soon as the horn goes, they blow their whistle, and they're getting the players out. I'm there starting their cheers. Like, I know a lot of the coaches and players at the higher levels. I'll be in there, I'll be like, 1, 2, 3, defense. Let's go, right? Like, I'll be saying their names and getting them out. That's what the referees are trying to do. They're trying to keep flow in the game. They're trying to keep things going so that we're not getting unfair advantages. Taking 1.5 minutes for a timeout is an unfair advantage. Our job as referees is to not give you that advantage. Okay? We're not trying to be dicks. We're trying to just keep the game going. I know. My son says, you're not allowed to say that, Dad. Okay. Now, so that was rules. Some of the things that are, one of the other ones I wrote down, I just wrote it down today. Jerseys tucked in. Now, at junior high, they have special rules. They're allowed to wear t-shirts. They're allowed to wear whatever it happens to be. All good. Rules say you're not allowed to. The junior high leagues have said you can. But one of the things they haven't said is jerseys tucked in. I've not let subs come in. I've sent players off for not listening for that. If I tell a player, tuck your jersey in, and he goes like this and tucks in the front, I'll say, no, all the way around. And then he'll go like this, and I'll blow my whistle, I'll say, get him a sub. He's not following what I'm telling him. He's not listening to instruction. And my hope as a referee is when I say get him a sub, the coach says, thank you, we'll do it. Bring the player off and say, tuck your jersey in, be ready to play. Okay? Okay, do's and don'ts. And I'm going to kind of intermingle these. And I've asked Nicholas at any point in time, jump in and share. Like, we want to share some real anecdotal stories too. Number 1, do. Ask questions. What I mean by ask questions, Don't make statements. There's the number one don't. Don't make statements. That was an awful call. What do you want me to say? Okay. Good job. That was an awful offensive set you just ran. I've never said that, but I'm now going to use that. Ask questions. Hey, I didn't see what happened there. Can you explain on that play what you saw? That gives the referee something to say. You might ask a follow-up question. By the third one, it's too late. Move on. Let it go. Let it move on. Can I talk to you about this? A referee should be willing to talk to you. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you're dealing with my 17-year-old son, he's pretty confident. We have a lot of referees that wouldn't say you know what if their mouth was full of it. That means that if you ask a question and they don't respond, you can't just keep going and going and going because it's probably not going to make it any better. That's the unfortunate truth. We have a number of referees that your games are at 4 o'clock. Up until I moved to Calgary, there's no way I could have made a 4 o'clock game. Long story short, I actually resigned my job. I got transferred to Calgary and then I resigned. So now I have tons of flexibility. So that means that I can actually make a 4 o'clock game with my son. But guess what? You're not going to have the senior referees. You're going to have people that are they're going to be struggling to get there. They might not be. You're not going to get Canada West referees for every game. You have to understand and accept that you're sometimes going to have people that aren't going to interact with you. You're going to have some that are going to talk too much. Hopefully you have something in between. Please treat referees with respect. We are all humans. We hate making mistakes as much as anybody else hates making mistakes. And I'm going to tell you this. One of my best buds is a guy by the name of Matt Kallio. And if any of you have been watching NBA this year, Matt Kallio is the first Canadian to ever make it to the NBA. He's now refereeing the NBA. I reffed him when he was in college, but I reffed Matt's very first college men's game with him. And he was introduced to me as this young star coming up. He was awful. Like, Matt was terrible. I tell him about it all the time. But he makes mistakes. I go out and referee a game with Matt. At the NBA, their accuracy rate, these are the best guys in the world. Their accuracy rate is somewhere between 92 and 95 on a good game. On a good game, they get to 95. That includes the calls that they make, the calls that they don't make. Those are the two things. Why do you think that if Matt Kallio at an NBA game can hopefully get to 92, why do you think that when my son comes out and referees your game, he should be 100%? Your players all make mistakes. We feel bad about it. And when it happens, we feel bad about it. And sometimes we, after the fact, we're like, we messed that one up, or we screwed this one up, or we wish we hadn't done it. Just please treat them with respect. Understand that we are going to make mistakes. This is more of a technical thing rather than dealing with officials. Your games are at 4 o'clock. You're going to have referees running in at 5 to 4, 10 to 4, sometimes 3:59. Be ready to play. Okay, have the score sheet ready to go. Have all those things. Have your scorekeepers there. Don't be scrambling saying, "Oh, we don't have a scoreboard today. Who's got that?" Like, have that stuff ready to go as coaches. Make sure that the game can start when the referee does get there if they show up late. We do want our referees to be there 15 minutes early, but because of work schedules, commitments, traffic, all these other things that we all know about, sometimes they're not there. This is one of my biggest do's. I want you to encourage your players to try refereeing. We struggle, like every sport, basketball struggles to get referees. It is one of the hardest things, and Nick is going to tell you why we struggle to get referees because he's going to share some of his experiences with you. I want you to encourage your players to officiate. Give it a try. They're going to learn a lot from officiating. They're going to learn leadership skills. They're going to learn what it takes to actually have courage. We talk about courage. I'm evaluating the college Final 8 men's last weekend, and I walked into the change room and I said, "You guys don't have the courage." They did not deal with a coach who needed to be dealt with. At that level, they didn't have the courage. I think that by getting younger people in and doing this, it can teach them these things. It can teach them to stand in front of 75 people, and well, he hasn't spoken yet, but he will. Hopefully he shuts up when he starts talking. But it does teach them that. Not only that, you know how much money we make refereeing? It's pretty good. Like, it's a good part-time job. Okay, another one of the don'ts. Don't question every call. We get things wrong. It happens. But I mean, if you are parents as well, which many of you are, you go in the stands and what do? You watch your kids' team. Travel, 3 in the key. Come on, ref. Do you yell that when the other team travels, or when your team travels? Do you yell that when your team is in the key for 3 seconds? No, you use these rose-colored glasses where you only see your kids or your team. I've done this many, many times, and I'm sure I've done it to Reagan. If Reagan says to me, Kevin, you got to watch 3 in the key. Do you want to know what the next call is on Reagan's team? 3 in the key. Then he gives me this. I go, oh, you only wanted me to call it on the opposing team. Like if you tell a coach to call something, don't be afraid if they call it on your team is my point, okay? So don't question every call.
I've got a question.
Sure.
Is there any good reason to say anything to the ref? Like, does it help? Or does it just make the ref look at your team or make them
No.
looking out?
Yeah. You absolutely can. I do want you to interact. My next point was don't interact during a live ball, but by all means, hey ref, I'm seeing this. Can you help me out with this? And their reaction should be, happy to help you out. You know, I didn't see it, but I'm going to take a look for it. What I don't like is when the coach is always yelling 3 in the key. 3 in the key, Kevin. Travel, Kevin. This, Kevin. Okay, call it. Right? Please don't take anything I've said today. Don't interpret it as don't talk to referees. Absolutely talk to referees. Just do it with respect. Do it at the right time. Do the right things and let it go. How many times have you seen a referee blow a whistle and say, kick that one. I'm going to take that back. It happens. I'm going to tell you right now, and Nicholas told me a story last weekend. He blew a foul, and he's like, oh, I blew it too early. Inadvertent whistle. The 17-year-old had the courage to take it back. As a dad, as a referee, I'm also a chartered accountant, by the way, so I'm a complete nerd. But as a dad, having your son tell you that, I was so proud. I'm like, that takes a lot of courage to admit you made a mistake and to do it when you called the foul. It doesn't happen very often. Yeah, don't interact with the officials during a live ball. When they're going by and you're yelling at them, and then they go back and you're yelling at them, I'm going to tell you right now, they're going to miss calls. Like it's hard, especially for the young guys, because what do? We put them in a clinic. We tell them, here are the rules, here are the mechanics, here's the game, here's all these things, here's all these fans. Now there's a coach yelling at you. They're just lost, right? So we got to give them, we got to have some patience and understand that during a live ball, they got so much going on. Like when we introduce them to 3-person mechanics, you only have 2 referees. Then we bring them in and we introduce them to 3-person mechanics. They're more worried about where they're standing than the calls they're making. Right? So if you also throw in and layer on top of that, yelling at them, it makes it really difficult. Don't pretend or don't think that the referees don't hear what you say. Nick and I did I don't even know what division that was.
Div 12.
Community U13 game last year. The coach is yelling at me he wanted an over and back call that wasn't an over and back call because I didn't call it. He's yelling at me for it. I walked up and I said, that is enough. When I've drawn a line in the sand, I'm going to tell you right now that line, you're not going to cross it. I walk away, and as I walk away, he yells at his team, don't worry, girls, he'll get the over and back next time. I turn around, I'm like, that's a technical foul. I'm talking to my team. No, you're not. You're directing that at me. Don't think the referees don't hear it. You make comments like that, they hear it. They understand that stuff. Another thing, don't try to embarrass the referee. How many of you have done this? Thrown a clipboard. When the referee has courage, he turns around, that's an automatic technical foul. We don't want that. No different than you wouldn't want me yelling at you when your team isn't running the double space offense, right? Try not to embarrass the officials. Don't blame the officials for your team's loss. I'm going to tell you a little story about a game I did 15 years ago in Camrose in Augustana. Basketball game, as a matter of fact, it was Matt Callio playing because he still bugs me about it. McEwen was #1 in the country. They were 19-0 playing against Augustana, who was 0-19. I counted a basket after the horn, couldn't hear the horn. Augustana, I don't know if you guys have anybody's ever been there, but it's about this big, and we got 500 fans in the stands yelling and screaming. The 0-19 team is 2 points up on the #1 team in Canada with 5 seconds left. I counted a basket after the horn. In hindsight, I should have known. You know, but we as referees got together and we said, okay, you've got responsibility for this, you got responsibility for that, you got responsibility for this. We screwed it up. Okay, I didn't sleep. I called the coach from Augustana and I'm like, I need to see the videotape. He says, Kevin, I've watched it 50 times, we can't tell, but we've timed it with a stopwatch. Like, great. I cost that team 2 points that day. You want to know what the coach said to me after? He said, Kevin, you cost us 2 points, but I'll take you anytime on any one of our games. Because he knows that that wasn't typical me. That made me feel really good in a time when I couldn't sleep because I did cost them. Don't blame the referees. Take a look at the shooting line. Take a look at what your team was doing. Take a look at all those other things. We hate making mistakes, especially on a last-second shot, and I hope that it never happens to you. But I can guarantee you that didn't cost your team the game, at least from a referee's perspective. So, all right, with that, I'm actually going to hand it off to Nicholas now, and Nick's going to talk about refereeing from a new referee's perspective. He's going to talk about some of the positives and negatives.
Put this on TNT. Oh, there you go. All right, I'm gonna start with the positives. Start on a light note because he kind of laid into you guys a little bit. So one of the positives being a referee, just that I've noticed especially, is it's good exercise. Like last Saturday, I went out, reffed some U11 playoff games, 3-4 hours of cardio. I'm just running back and forth 3-4 hours. It keeps me in shape. It gives me something to do to get out of the house because I don't get out of the house very often, especially when I'm bogged down with schoolwork. I'm still in high school. So it's a nice way to just get out of the house, get some exercise in. Also money. He said it earlier, like I said, as a high school student, I don't have a part-time job yet, but this pretty much is. Last weekend I made $80 for 3 games. One day, $80. It's pretty good. We did a tournament one time. They were really desperate for referees. We did a tournament
They weren't that desperate. Don't downplay it.
They wanted us. They wanted him specifically. They were like, Kevin, we need you. We went to Strathmore. Made, how much was it? $350? We ref like 3 games, was it? Five games?
Yeah.
They went quick. 5 games, we made $350. 2 days. Like, especially for like, you know, if you have kids my age, tell them, you know, $350, they'll jump at that. Like, love the money. It's also a great way to like meet new people, you know, and catch up with like people you already reffed before. 2 weekends ago, I reffed with this lady. Her name was Elena. She was, I didn't ask her age, but she was probably like 60. But like, it was like, even though like there's such a massive age gap, but like we're both referees, we can both like come together and like talk about the game and kind of like bond over that. It's a great way to like meet new people, make friends, and like if I ever ref with her again, I'll be like, you know, hey, you know, Elena, what's up? I'll be like, hey, what's up? And I've got coaches that I recognize because I've refed them before. There's one coach who refs a CLS girls U15 team. I've seen him probably 5 times. And one time he came in to watch a CLS U11 game. I was refereeing a U11 game and he came in to watch them, kind of evaluate the team, see if any of them were ever going to make his team. I see him, I'm like, oh, hey, what's up, you know, how you doing? Because it's just great. It's just a great way to meet new people and interact. Reffing with him as well is always fun. I mean, he's really hard on me because he's, you know, university ref and I'm year 2, but it's still fun. Like I can ref and we did this recently. I blew a foul. I go to the table. I say 15 blue with a block. And he says, what's the order? He looks at me. He just goes, yeah, what's the order? Red 15, block. Or did I say blue? Whatever. He's criticizing me, but it's in little ways. It's fun little jokes. Like it's in jokes. Yeah, it's little nitpicks, but it's in jokes. It's just a nice like way to get out and kind of, you know, dad-son bond with each other. Also just staying, you know, around the sport of basketball. I'm not good as a player. There's a reason I'm reffing and I'm not on my high school team, you know. But it's still like I love basketball. I really do. Like if the Raptors are playing, I'm downstairs, I'm watching it, I'm not doing my homework. And like it's a great way to give back to the sport and stay around the sport as long as I can, you know? And the dream, of course, like I can't make the NBA, but the dream would be to ref in the NBA. That's the dream. Probably not going to happen, but you know, it's the dream. It's just a great way to just stay around the sport
There aren't many
of
NBA
basketball.
referees with this and this.
You know what?
I keep telling them that.
If the NBA calls, I'm cutting the hair. I'm cutting the hair. Now, unfortunately, I have to get into the negatives of being a new referee. And I'm going to say it right now. Big part of that, coaches and fans. Coaches and fans. Players, most of the players I referee, they're too young to know to yell at me for a bad call. I've refed a couple high school games, and they have their disagreements with me, but still, it's the players, it's the coaches that are, coaches and fans, not players and coaches.
Nick and I were doing U11 boys last year, U11 boys Tier 1 playoff game. The gym was packed. I don't know if any of you have gone to a U11 game. It's the short rim, it's 4-on-4. This was phenomenal basketball. Nick comes up to me during a break, he's like, hey, can you hear that dad on the baseline? I'm like, no, I didn't hear it. Next time I go down, whoa, I heard it. I stopped the game and I turned around and said, if you want to watch your son finish this game, you need to shut your mouth. He won't do that. I will do that. Because I want him to continue.
So like as like many new referees are around my age. I have seen new referees that are like 20, 30, 40. But most new referees starting out are my age. They're or even younger than me, 16. I've seen 15-year-old referees. It's hard having people twice, 3 times your age, twice your size, yelling at you. Just treating you like insulting you is what they're doing. And it doesn't feel like they're insulting your calls. It doesn't feel like it's, you know, insulting you as a referee. It feels like an insult on you as a person. And that is extremely difficult for a kid to handle. I was talking with one of my friends. He lives up in Edmonton. I'm going to go to Edmonton next year for college. And he's looking forward to, we're going to hopefully ref some games together. He was saying, only reason he hasn't quit yet is because I'm coming up. He can't take it. All the fans, all the coaches yelling at him, he can't handle it. It's too much for him. He doesn't have thick enough skin to take it. And it does take really thick skin, getting berated for 3 hours a day, constantly. And I read a statistic that the leading reason officials quit is poor sportsmanship. 70% of officials cite poor sportsmanship as the reason for quitting, from parents and coaches yelling at them. And 60% of them quit within their first 2 years because they're my age and they just can't tolerate being yelled at. So, especially if you see, I know CNBA has a system where they give first and sometimes second years referees a white whistle, and that means that they're new. That means treat them with respect, because if you keep yelling at referees, if they fall out of love with the sport and they stop reffing, not only is that suck for them, but that sucks for you guys as well, because like he said, there's always a shortage of refs, and if we keep losing refs because they keep getting yelled at, there's no games for you to play.
Yeah, we're there to facilitate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm going to tell you this very openly. You're going to get some really crappy referees, but understand that we don't have too many of them. Like, we have such a shortage of referees. We don't have enough people to do it. That's what happens. If you want to play the games, sometimes you're going to be dealt that hand. But try to take it easy on them. By all means, ask questions. I'm not telling you to treat them with white gloves or kid gloves, whatever the saying is. But it's okay. It's okay. But understand that they're not going to be perfect. I've never reffed a perfect game. It's the elusive perfect game. So just understand that's what you're going to have. So with that, thank you guys very much. Thanks for listening. Appreciate. That's 100% the reason why. So the guy who assigns referees, his name is Riley Carrison. And Riley actually had a discussion with your league to say, we don't have enough referees. If you change your league schedule, then we'll be able to have referees. It has made it better. It's very, I mean, as an official, I'm thankful for it.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all.
You want to keep the mic warm?
Please, thanks.